you have a lot of ribbons in your collection that you aren't using? Do you need to find a Ribbon Collectors Anonymous group to help you with your addiction? I know a lot of us need to find one of those groups with our paper addiction, but today we're talking about ribbon. I love to use ribbon on my projects, and I know many of you do too. Now, a lot of times when I want to use ribbon on a project, my mind initially goes to making a bow, but a lot of times I don't want a bow. I want something a little bit different. So if you are like me and you're looking for different ways to use ribbon on your projects, you're going to love this video. I have over 15 different ways that you can use ribbon on projects without using a bow, and I will demonstrate all of them and show you tons and tons of card samples. As we go through here, I'll mention some tips and techniques, and I'll link you to lots of other things that you can take a look at if you see some cards or tips or techniques that you want more information on. Let's get started. First, I'll mention how I like to attach bows and ribbons to my project using either mini glue dots or my Seal Plus adhesive. Now, these are really awesome for attaching to the back of your ribbon. And I just shared this tip not too long ago for how to make this little dispenser box for these glue dots. For all the things, any card projects you see that you like, any of these, use the link in the video description below. And you'll go to my website, you'll find pictures of all this stuff and links to lots and lots of tips and techniques and things. So this glue dispenser box, I like to use this, and then I can just press my ribbon to the glue dot, lift it up, and it's ready to stick right onto a project. Or for some of them, I really like to put seal onto my card, onto my piece of cardstock, my element for my card, whatever it is. And then we will use some of these as I demonstrate how to use some of these techniques. I will mention, I have a visitor. You want to say hi?
Hi.
My little stamping helper is here today, and she wanted to help me with my video. Okay, so let's get started with my first way to use ribbon. And some of these are pretty basic, but I wanted to cover all the bases. So first one is just to use a strip. Just cut a strip and lay it behind something on your card, like the tag or greeting, and just leave it flat. This one I pinched up in the center a little bit. If you can see that, that's a really wide piece of mesh ribbon, but this one is very simple. Just put a little bit of adhesive on your card, lay a strip down, and then you can put something else on top and leave the ends of that ribbon sticking out. Second one is similar to the first one, but wrap the ends around to the back. So for this one, I would put a glue dot on each end of my ribbon, make it a little bit wider than the blue piece on my card, wrap it around to the back and attach those glue dots, and then put this piece onto my card base. Pretty simple. The third one is to wrap the ribbon around an element several times. Yes, little buddy?
Those look like some of the new in colors.
Do they? They are some of the new in colors. We have some pretty new colors, don't we? Mm-hmm. So on this one, two of these do have little bows, so you can ignore those because they wouldn't have to have bows. Actually, 3 of them do, but I just wrap these around several times. And I think this kind of creates a fun element to a card. This one, you can barely see it, but I feel like it really adds something there in the background, that sparkly ribbon. Now these I wrapped around several times. Here you can wrap it around something that's actually on your card, like this cute little jar, or just, a basic piece of cardstock like on this one. Or this, I wrapped it around, these two basically, around that entire card front piece. And I did add a bow, but you wouldn't have to. You could either put the ends in the back or tie a little knot. The next one is to use a strip with a knot, and I will mention a few of these cards I can't take credit for. I received them in card swaps, and this is one of them. So with this, you would just tie a knot in the center of your piece of ribbon and then wrap the ends around to the back. So that's pretty simple as well.
What were those things on the turtle?
The things on the turtle? Mm-hmm. It's part of its turtle shell. Oh. Looks like some glue or something that dried. Here, the next one is to use knots. So it's pretty simple to use a knot. Now these happen to be attached to a strip that wrapped around the back, but you can just use a plain knot as well. That can be very simple. And actually, here is another one I thought of a couple of minutes ago, is to create a double knot. So what if you have 2 pieces of ribbon, we'll put them together and tie two together. This way you'll just end up with a couple of extra tails, and you can fan those out so they show a little better and trim the ends and use a double knot. Knots are nice if you struggle with bows. Now, if you need help tying bows, I will include some links to some of my favorite bow tying videos. I have lots of tips, and one in particular that I've had really, really good luck with people learning how to tie bows. So I will mention that. Next one, I'm calling this tails out. We'll call this tails out. Is just to cut a little piece of ribbon and fold it in half and leave the tail showing behind an element of your card. Now, when I do this, I typically like to angle the ends opposite directions, unlike this one I'm holding in my hand right now. But I just wanted to show you. So on this one, here is a piece of cardstock with some adhesive on it. I would just fold this in half, stick it right there in my adhesive, and then I can put something else on top. So that is a simple one as well. The next one is very similar to this one, except I would cut a little bit longer piece of ribbon and allow more of it to show instead of covering it up like I did on the last one. So here are several where I just have a longer piece of ribbon. I folded it in half and you can see a large part of that ribbon. This one may be a little bit harder to see, but it's right there behind my tag. And that's a fun way to see some of your ribbons as well.
I remember you making the butterfly one.
Do you remember me making that one? Mm-hmm. Yep, I have lots, and those are some fun techniques. I'll link to those. So this one is similar to that last one, but how you lay the ribbon is a little bit different. So on the last one, I would just fold my ribbon in half and attach it that way. This one is more like a support ribbon, like a cancer ribbon. So if you take your ribbon, and we'll see if I can describe this properly, bring the right side down, and you're actually taking the part of the ribbon that's on the back side is actually going to end up on the front side. And then same thing with this piece over here and the left side. The back side is going to end up as the front side here as well. And then usually I cross these somewhere around here and attach that area to the adhesive. So this way you get a little different look with the way the ribbon lays. But that's a fun look as well. Number 9, we're already to my 9th idea. And this is one I've started using a lot more. We'll call this a zigzag. So I'll show you here in just a second how I do this. Here's one with twine, so you get a little bit different look. But you just go back and forth with your ribbon, and then you can place something of interest on top of that. So we'll use this piece again. I'll add a little bit more adhesive and show you. I start with one of the tails down, come up to the top and loop it, down to the bottom and loop it, and then just repeat that a few more times. And usually I have my tails ending up on opposite directions. So I would cut this tail off at the top. And then, like you can see, I put a tag or something over the top of that. So that's one that I think is really fun with the zigzags. Now here's another one I cannot take credit for. Actually, these next few I cannot take credit for. But this is one I do really enjoy doing this, is to wrap it around the corner of your project. So this is very simple. You take whatever part of your project you want to put it on, trim a piece of ribbon, and wrap this around to the back side. Now, sometimes I have trouble figuring out how to attach the ribbon to make it lay flat. But if you put probably a glue dot on one side, attach it over here to this end, then it will hold it tight and you can wrap it and attach this other end as well. So that's a fun way to use ribbons as well. The next one is to use ribbon through the end of a tag. So even if you don't have a tag, you could turn an element of your card into a tag just by punching a hole in the center. So how you want to do this is to take a piece of ribbon, and this one is plenty long for what we're doing, but it will do the trick. Fold it in half in the center, and you want to bunch that up and put it through the hole from front to back. Then you can open up that loop back here in the back, put your ends through and pull, depending on what kind of paper you're using. You may need to be gentle with this so you don't tear the top of it, but pull, and then you can trim your ends. So that's a fun thing you can do as well. This one, I cannot take credit for this card. This one is similar to the tag, except there's a hole in both ends. And really, you just put a piece of ribbon through the back, pull it back through the front, and then you can wrap that around to the back side of your card front. So that's a really beautiful way to use ribbon as well. Now, the next few are all related a little bit. I'm going to call these my messy threads, my messy ribbons. But there's several different ways I like to do this, and I will show you all of them. So here are 2 examples, and I will show you how I like to do these. So this one basically has 1 loop on each side and 1 tail on each side. And it's pretty easy to do. Usually when I do this, I start with just a little bit of adhesive on my project. You don't need very much at all, far less than I have on this project right here, but you can attach start with your 1 tail, wrap it up as far as you want that loop to go, bring it back down, and then loop this one back up and attach it so your tail goes back up to the top, and then cut off the tail at the top. Now, sometimes what I find is I create my loops, and then I've learned, because I do this quite a bit, I want to lay my element on top. If it's my tag or my ice cream cone, whatever it is, I want to lay that on top and see how it looks, because a lot of times my loops are either too long or too short. So if it's wrong, I just lift it back up and I can change it. I can make them shorter, I can make them longer, I can move them, no big deal at all. So this is we'll call it a double loop with thread. The other ones get a little bit messier, and I really like this look. I used to do this look a lot, all the time. Now I've kind of changed it up a little bit with the ones I'll show you here in a second, but this is what I call messy thread, and a lot of other people call messy thread. And I'll demonstrate this. Here, I will grab a piece of thread. You can do this with ribbon if you want to. A lot of times I do it with thread though. And you just start at the bottom, make a loop, and wrap these wherever you want. You may want to keep them a little bit more orderly, kind of going the same directions. You may want them to be all over the place. And what's nice about this, like I just showed you, is you can put them on and see how it looks. Put whatever you're going to put over top, put it on there and just see if you like it. And if not, pull it off and start over. So that is pretty easy. There's no rhyme or reason, no rules about how to do the messy thread. Now for this next one, it's kind of what my messy thread has evolved into. And these are loops that I have basically pinched together in the center and then attach them. So I'll show you how I do this one. Usually just make a few loops in my hand. So I just wrap that around my fingers a couple of times, and then I want my ends to be going opposite ways. Then I pinch this together in the center. Lost one of my ends. Pinch it together in the center. And then attach that to a glue dot or just a little bit of adhesive on the project. And like I said, this is one I've been doing quite a bit. I really like the look of this. Now let's look at a few variations. I have a couple more. But I was going through a lot of my card samples here, finding all kinds of different ways to use ribbon and thread, and I wanted to share a few more here as well. So this is one, I cut a few short pieces of twine, and the ends are all at the bottom, and I wrapped them up and around and left those ends sticking out at the bottom. So that's another way. Here is another one of my messy threads, but instead of just having two ends hanging out, I have, I think like 6 ends hanging out. And I think that's a fun look to get extra pieces of those tails sticking out. I think it looks really nice. Here's one similar to where I pinched the loops, but I left them more farther apart in the center. So you get kind of a wider looped look with that one. Here's one. I don't really know that this counts as messy thread, but it's just, I am just showing you lots and lots of ideas with ribbon here. So this one has one loop in the center and then the tail sticking out there on the corners of that cute little cactus. That's an idea. Here's one with one loop and one tail. I thought that was a nice look. I just did that one for the first time not too long ago, and I will probably do that more often. Here's one. You may have a hard time seeing, but I have a wide piece of that mesh ribbon laying on there with the folded piece of ribbon on top and then my tag. There's just tons and tons of ways to use ribbon, aren't there? Mm-hmm. Yep, you love ribbon?
Yeah.
Yeah, you try and steal my ribbon a lot?
Maybe.
Thanks so much for watching along today. I hope you got some ideas you can use here. Take a look at those links in the video description below for information on these cards, techniques, tips, all sorts of fun things. And you can also get a link to go to my online store and order your stamping supplies. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.